Anybody know who's on the left?
No.
Nobody?
I know who's on the left.
Coach, you know who's on the left?
Yeah. Lindgren and Priest.
Yeah, Lindgren, Jerry Lindgren. The other actually faster miler than Prefontaine. That's one of the sub 4-minute milers in high school that we've been talking about when everybody keeps bringing up Rosbicas. That would be Jerry Lindgren. Jerry Lindgren's kind of famous for using a little bit more than Bob's over distance principle. He he was a 100-mile-a-day guy sometimes. A day.
But yeah, continually he was about 150 a
Right,
week.
continually it was about 150, but he didn't do too much later on in life. He did a lot in high school and some, and good in college and stuff.
Everybody get pyramids?
So he was one of those guys that tried to catch up to those Kenyans that had 20,000 miles on it, basically. Yeah, he was crazy. He still is crazy. So we've got everybody always looking for something to motivate them. So I actually talked to Jerry Lindgren recently, and we were kind of chatting about what I want to talk about with you guys. And he said, "No, I've got a great motivational thing that I use with people that I talk to about running." And I said, "Sure, what is it?" He's like, "Well, I draw a hand out, literally draw a hand, and I've got something to put on each finger. And basically, you guys are gonna, when I give you the hand, you guys are gonna throw it up on your wall, and it's got something to go around that each finger of your hand has to do with." So it's Jerry Lindgren's motivational map to success, and he calls it the Book of 5 Fingers. And you start out with your thumb. And our thumb is the basis of our civilization. If you don't know that, you've got some problems. Man's opposable thumb is what got us to where we are. So you want to think of the thumb as the base. All the base work that Bob tells you to put in, putting in all the grinding summer work we're doing here, it's monotonous. So it's the base of our civilization. Without a strong base, your body's going to feel weak later on. Yeah, sometimes when I know a lot of you guys, I could see it today, we're feeling a lot more sluggish as the week has progressed. Well, guess what? Next week it gets easier. And the week after it gets easier. If you keep doing the same things. It's just like, sometimes you hear about that sophomore slump, or, sometimes it's a sophomore greatness that comes out of people. You got to put in that base work in the summertime and in the pre-track season to get your foundation right. If you don't put down the base, it's like putting a house, just laying it down on top of the ground here. Without putting down the concrete, that house is going to collapse on itself. So you want to make sure you lay down a huge foundation of base. That's why you take these 8 to 12 weeks of summer and you don't do much speed, because you're going to do that later. You don't want to race till November. You want to train to get 3 good weeks out of yourself, basically, or maybe 4 if you're going Foot Locker. You want your districts, region, state. Does anybody care if you win the first meet, the second meet? Nobody cares about that. I mean, it's nice, don't get me wrong, but I'd rather be the guy winning at the end than the beginning, because that happened to me. My junior year, I went out and I trained with Bob over the summer, learned everything you guys are going to learn, and I came out and broke 5 course records the first 5 meets of the year. And I just shattered them. And it was like nothing. And then my senior year, or later on in the junior year, I kind of got hurt, and the end of the year was nothing. And it was probably because I was pushing myself too hard in the beginning instead of continuous base still through there before I started to try and run fast. So you guys need to lay down that foundation. That's your base. That's the thumb. It's the most important finger we have. Without the thumb, we wouldn't be where we are to be building things and tools and what humanity is. The next one is your index finger, and they work hand in hand. It's the strongest bond we have, and what this does is it points direction. You're always pointing with this finger. You don't point with your middle finger. That's not good. You don't point with your other fingers. You always point with your index finger. You don't go like this. So this keeps you in the right direction or aim. So with this forefinger, you want to think of direction. And by direction, what I mean is, where are you going to? He said, believe in the process and the goals will come. We have to aim for something. Whether it's 10th at state to medal, or top 25 at your conference meet, whatever it is, you have to have some kind of a goal. You have to point somewhere. You have to have some kind of direction that you want to get to. And it's a lot easier if you come up with a goal and your direction is based on something more than just yourself. You can't just run for yourself. It can't be, I want to do this because I want to be better. you create an energy about yourself when you come up with something bigger than yourself. I want to do it for my team. I want to do it for my family. I want to represent my school. You know, you have to come up with some kind of purpose for it. You can't just be I all the time, because that's when you're really going to be inside your head the whole race, and you're going to miss out on everything else going on around you. I was telling Bob, I thought yesterday when he was doing the inside-outside, he should have told a story about his top kid, Chiron, that just set his mile record. I told my kids about it. You know, he Facebooks a lot, Chiron. And the day of regionals at the 5K, any of you guys know who Sam Chalenga is, the national high school record holder, or college record holder?
27:08 10K in college.
27:08 10K in college. So basically back-to-back 13:35s, 5Ks. So anyway, he is running next to Chiron in the regional qualifiers going to nationals, and they're favored to go 1-2 basically in their heat, and they're going to make it out easily. And they're about halfway through the race, and some guy flies by him. It just like flies by him. And this is the whole inside-outside your head thing. And they're running, and Sam Chalenga turns to Chiron and goes, "Man, that's a smart runner." And Chiron goes, "Why? Because he took the lead from us, and he's pushing the pace to take out our kick?" And he goes, "No, he's wearing a Harvard jersey." I mean, he was completely in another world. He wasn't thinking about the race. You know, he knew eventually everything would come back to him, because he was in the position in his head, and he wasn't worried about it. He didn't care. He didn't go chase the guy down because he could. He waited. And, of course, they finished 1-2 in the race pretty easily. But, you know, like I said, if you check your fingers, your twosome of your index and your thumb, they're the best things that work together. It's the strongest bond. If you try and compress your other fingers, they're not nearly as strong as the two here. So you always want to keep your base in line with your direction. Like you said, if you're doing 5K training, you should putting the base in for it. If you're doing 10K, marathon, whatever, you need to put down that foundation to get in the direction you want to go. If you don't get there, it's because you're not putting down the right things to go with it. That twosome is huge compared to any of the other twosomes, you know, I'll discuss in the rest of the lecture.
I'm dying to know what the middle finger's for.
Oh, you'll see in a second. Anyway, we'll see in a second. Just made me lose my train of thought. So, no, that's all right. No. So you've got, you're basically, you're pointing the direction that you want to go. Now, the big thing about also with direction is if you don't, I don't want to put this, I was thinking about it earlier, if you don't have, where is it? I got notes. That is good. If you don't, oh, that's what it is. If you don't have the right direction, you're going to get beat by people with less ability because they do have the right direction, or they did put down the right base. If you aren't setting those 3 goals, minimal, your normal goal, and then your maximum goal, your ultimate goal for the season, like he tells you to, you're going to get beat in those other races by people that really shouldn't beat you, even if it's an easy day for you. I mean, if you're a 16 flat guy and you've had that race where you go 16:40 and get beat by about 25 to 30 guys that you know you shouldn't have, it's because you were outside or inside your head too much, and your goal wasn't right for that race. You didn't say, you know, I want to do this. You were just, oh, I'm a 16 flat guy, I'll be all right, I'll be in the top 5, no big deal. You just assume. You can't assume that things are going to come to you. You have to pick the point that you want to be at later on in the season. Don't worry what happens along the way to get there. When you're getting into your direction, just make sure you're focusing on that point. The journey will come.